I'm joined this week by Michael Andrews, who's the chairman of the board of directors of Family and Children's Services of Gananoque, Leeds and Grenville, and by Erin Lee Marcotte, who is the director of operations.
Executive director.
The executive director. In other words, the person who's in charge of delivering all of the services. So what is a Family and Children's Services organization, and what does it deliver? Erin Lee, well, I'll start with you.
Sure. Well, Family and Children's Services of Gananoque, Leeds and Grenville is your local child welfare agency. So a lot of people kind of know these agencies as children's aid societies. Okay. We are one of 50 agencies in the province of Ontario. We deliver child protection services, so under a mandate of the Child, Youth and Family Services Act, which I will say CYFSA, but that's that's okay. The legislation that mandates us. And its paramount purpose, of course, is to promote the best interests, protection and well-being of children. And so our mission, of course, at FCS LLG, we are governed by a volunteer board of directors, so we are not Ontario public servants, but we're funded by the Ministry of Children and Community and Social Services, and legislated by that ministry as well, by that legislation. So we deliver child protection services sort of from the front door, where we receive calls about issues of maltreatment or families that need support, vulnerable children in our community across Gananoque, Leeds and Grenville, and we will determine whether we need to open something because a referral sort of meets what we call our eligibility criteria. So is there a child welfare entry point based on the information?
Is there a need under the legislation for you to intervene?
Right. Does it actually meet that test for us to get involved? Because of course we shouldn't be getting involved in people's lives if they don't require that. There may be other more appropriate supports for families. So people will call concerned. Certain professionals that work with children have a legislated duty to report. So we get calls from schools and police and other community partners, but we also get calls from concerned community members.
And this is there's an important thing here that I want to tease out that the member of the general public may not understand.
Sure.
Is that the duty to report is about a concern? It doesn't automatically identify that there's an issue, but if somebody has a legitimate concern,
if
they identify that concern.
Absolutely.
And then your professionals will do an initial assessment to determine whether or not this concern deserves further attention.
Exactly. So to give you some data on that, for example, for our last fiscal year, we had about 2,200 calls to the agency, but we actually only completed 1,200 investigations. So sometimes people call in with inquiries about different things, fostering, adoption. They have questions about maybe their past records. They might think that it's a referral, but it actually doesn't meet the threshold. We do a lot of community links as well. So if something is a concern, but it doesn't necessarily meet our threshold, we do spend a lot of time on the phone with people, helping them navigate systems or other services, or providing referrals to other services like children's mental health or addictions counseling or food banks or family violence programs, victim services, things like that.
So you are a volunteer.
That's correct.
On the board of directors of Family and Children's Services of Gananoque, Leeds and Grenville. What drew you to become engaged with the board, and why do you still do it?
As I was getting a little older in life, I was looking, my children were grown and gone, looking for opportunities to contribute to the community. And I was drawn to child welfare really because of my maternal grandmother, who had a long career, and in the 1950s served as executive director of 3 different children's aid societies. So
you have roots.
Yeah, and she didn't talk a lot about what she did, but one of the things that she kind of instilled in the family, which I think came from her long career, and you have to remember in the 1950s, very, very different time, but from her long career, one of the things is, first, don't be judgmental about people, because there's a whole lot going on that you don't know, and that's a very good message. But the other one was that there's just a tremendous need for community support, and that in the 1950s there was a huge issue really around poverty. And children entering the child welfare system because of the poverty of their parents. And my grandmother thought it was an outrage and advocated long and hard for the ability to provide financial supports rather than removing children from homes. And it took a long time, but we've made some progress in that area. So that's really what brought me when I saw an ad. The agency was looking for directors, and I thought, well, I could do that. And as a director, we're a governance board, so our responsibility is to oversee the work of the professionals. The board has no involvement in case management. Our monitoring, we look at statistics, but it's an anonymized data. We don't, board members don't know who in our community is receiving services, but our responsibility is to ensure that those services are provided and to, effectively manage the budget which we're provided. Child welfare is wholly funded by the province of Ontario. There are other social services that are delivered in similar ways, local nonprofits. And the theory certainly is that you get decision making made at a lower local level, provides good level of service. That model only works though if you get volunteer directors on those boards. So our agency and many other agencies in the area which are involved in delivering services wholly reliant on volunteer boards. So it's really important that we can get people out there stepping up for those roles.